Hello there, I'm Todd Weller. Thank you for joining today's Lunch and Learn served by the FileMaker team at Cross IT. Before we dig in, remember that you have a chance to win lunch on us if you leave a comment or ask a question during the live stream. Just make sure that we have your email address so we can contact you. Today's a la carte installment is the product of your questions. If you've ever wondered how to script the dynamic filtering of a list of records and then quickly restore the original found set, you've come to the right place. We've got a lot to cover today, so let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, so we're going to be talking about filtering a list of records in FileMaker. So let's get back here to our demo file. For those of you that have been around the platform a while, you've probably noticed that there is this search field that's up here in the upper right corner, which is the FileMaker Quick Find, which certainly looks like that would work for us. And it provides, that method of filtering lists and finding records right out of the box. But there's a couple cons to that, in that the status toolbar, which is this section here at the top, it needs to be visible, which is usually very easy to do in FileMaker Pro, but it's not there in FileMaker Go, and it may or may not be there when you're using FileMaker Web Direct. So it's not a method that works everywhere that people could be accessing your custom solution. And unfortunately, it does not perform the find automatically. You would type in the information and then you would have to hit enter or some other kind of button in order to initiate that search. So that's one of the reasons why we've moved away from doing it that. And so we've come up with this user-defined method. And of course, the obvious pro is that it provides us as the developer with the opportunity to do a lot more customization of that method. The only con really is that it does require some more time to set up. But as you'll see, it's not incredibly difficult as we get into it here. And there's really three components that you have to be mindful of as you're working in it. And that is, of course, you need to update the layout with the field that you need. Then there's also a script that needs to be written, and then you need to set up the script trigger to activate. So let's go ahead and start digging in, and we can see what's going on. Now this here is one that is actually a completed view, and then we'll go and just kind of show you where we're headed before we dig in. And the use case here is that a company has sold a number of products that they track by serial number, and of course then they track the warranty date, and this is for like a customer service representative that would be able to come in and be able to quickly find the information, and they would just say, okay, I want to look at and it quickly you get down to, and of course as you back out, then it's expanding your found set for you. And then if you realize, okay, I need to search for something else, I want to get back to the original found set, there's a button there that clears all of that out. So that's what we're working towards. So let's go ahead and dig in and find out, okay, how does all of that happen? All right, so let's go ahead and move over here, and here's again the blank layout that has that information on it. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and we'll modify the layout to get our field on there that we're going to need. And the field has already been defined, and it is this one that is filter text, which because of my naming convention, I know that it's set up as a global field because it has the little G prefix in front of it. So I can just go ahead and I'm going to drag it over here. I'm not going to worry and eliminate the label because we're going to know what it means because it's up here. And so that is the extent of what we need to do really, at least at this point on our layout. So what's going to happen as we go into browse mode here is that we'll be able to come into this field and start typing, and then we want to be able to do something with that. And the way that we do that is that if you've looked at the script triggers that you're able to set for an object, one of the ones is this on object modify. So that is the script trigger that we're going to be able to make use of for this. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Now I've already started the script by name, which right now it's just a blank script, but I'm going to go ahead and select that. Again, this is my naming convention, so I know that this prefix tells me that it's a script trigger. A little bit of tells me what it does, and then here at the end it tells me the expected trigger that is going to cause that script to run. All right, so we can just go ahead and click OK, and so now we've got that set up, and you'll notice there's a very tiny little like scroll type thing with a little sunburst on it to let us know that there is a script trigger now associated with that object on our layout. So as you visually look, you can see that, okay, that's what's happening there. All right, so that's our layout setup. So let's go ahead and get into our script workspace. So again, here is our blank script. And so the first thing that we're really going to do is just run a find. So we're just going to build this up so you can see the steps that you would want to go through. The first one is we want to go ahead and turn our error capture on. And then we're going to enter find mode. And this is the one that always messes me up, is that we want to enter find mode, but we don't want to pause because we're going to go ahead and control it. And then we're going to go ahead and search on a field. So we can go ahead and set that search value. And so what that is that we're worried about in this particular instance, we're worried about the serial number. And then our calculated result is just going to be the value that is in our global field that we've set up. So I'm going to go ahead and select it here out of our specify calculation. And so now we've got that. And then the last thing that we're going to do is, instead of running a find operation, I'm going to go ahead and constrain the found set because I want to take the list of records that I already have and then just go ahead and constrain it down. And then just because it makes me feel better, I'm going to go ahead and turn the error capture off, even though it's going to turn itself off whenever I get down to the bottom. And the last thing here is we're just going to go ahead and do a sort records. Again, we want to turn that off, and we're going to go ahead and specify our sort order, which is just we're going to sort it by serial number and the sending value. So that all looks good. And then the last thing that I need to do anyway is I can't write a script without having an exit script step at the end, just because it gives me the warm and fuzzy feeling knowing that it's there. So, all right, so it looks like we're well on our way. So let's go ahead and save that. And now what I'm going to do, and this is the one thing that you definitely want to be using, is that you want to be able to go ahead and use script debugger whenever you're testing any kind of script that's going to be tied to a script trigger, so that you can control that if it might trigger when you don't expect it, and then you need to be able to get out of it because of, maybe you forgot the exit condition or something like that. You're going to put yourself into a loop, which is never good. The script debugger lets you get out of that. So we're going to go ahead and turn that on. Come back over here, go into browse mode. I'm going to go ahead and save our changes. And so now I'm going to go ahead and what you'll notice is the first time that I go ahead and type is that the object, which in this case is our field, has been modified. And so it's gone ahead and executed that script. So we can just go ahead and we'll step through the script here. So there's our error capture. We're going into find mode, setting the serial number, constraining the found set. Error capture off. We're going to go ahead and sort the records and then exit the script. And now we are back. So that looks very good. So I can see that if I want to keep typing, as I go back into the field there and then go ahead and select again, and again we see that, okay, it's now going to constrain sort, and we are still seeing, that the same number of records. Now what's interesting though is that if I come back up here, now that's kind of annoying. That's not something that we would expect. So let's go ahead and fix that right now. So let's go ahead and go back to our script workspace. And actually it's going to require two things. I'm going to go back into layout mode. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give this field object a name. And again, this is my naming convention where I just, use a prefix and then an underscore. And it's usually the name of the field, but not always. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to go ahead and add another step here after our sort to take me back to that particular object. So I'm going to use go to object. All right, so let's save that change. And now when I come back in here, so now when I click the T, obviously we're going to go into find mode again. It's done that, it does the sort, and now it takes me back to the place where I just was, which is more of the expected behavior. You wouldn't want that field to lose focus after it runs the operation. So we'll go ahead and remove that so we can get in here and okay, so now we see okay, things are working the way that we would expect. Now the issue that we run into is that okay, now we got values in there, but what if I want to go back to the original found set? I want to be able to get rid of that information. So if I were to do this, nothing happens. And so obviously that is not behavior that we would want. So now we need to go back in, take a look at our script and see what we need to do to repair that. So let's go ahead and go into our script workspace. Okay, and so obviously what we're looking at there is a condition that if the field is modified but the value is empty, we wanted to do something different than if it does have a value. So let's go ahead and get back into our script, give ourselves a little bit of space, add an if statement. We want to say if is empty, and we're just going to go ahead and select our filter text field here. So if our filter text value is empty, what we want to do is just go ahead and do a show all records. Okay, and else we want to go ahead and let me make sure I get that in the right spot. Just clean this up a little bit. All right, so let's go ahead and save that change. So again, if the value is empty, we're just going to go ahead and show all of the records that are in our found set or in that particular table. Else, we're going to go ahead and do the constraint, which we had already been looking at. So we'll go ahead and type here. So again, we're constraining the existing found set, which is just those two records, so we're not seeing any change. But now, as I empty that, we come back to our full set of records, which is again the expected behavior for our user, so we know we're getting close. Now the one thing though that you'll notice that it did not do for us is that as I typed, it started to filter. Okay, but unfortunately, as I start to back out of that, and maybe I typed the wrong number as I started to dial into that serial number, is that it's not expanding anything until it shows me back to the entire found set. Again, probably not the behavior that we would want, and the reason why is just because of the way the constraint operation works that we're using, in that it constrains the existing found set. It doesn't necessarily go back to just those. So we need to do a little bit more logic here in our script. So let's go ahead and go back to that. And so the way that I got around this is that if we can track the length of our text, so we know whether, okay, have we made the text longer or shorter, then we'll be able to make a decision and decide what we want to do. All right. So what does that look like? Okay, well, the one thing that's going to require is we're going to have to go ahead and use a global variable now to go ahead and just save that information for us. And we're also going to have to decide whether we're going to do a constrain or do we need to do a find operation. All right, so we'll go ahead and, so if the length of the value in our filter text is greater than the length of the value, okay, we want to go ahead and again do our constrain as expected. Else, if I can type today, we want to go ahead and perform a find. And what that does is if the value gets shorter, now what's going to happen is that if the value gets longer, it's going to constrain the existing found set. If we make it shorter, now it's going to go ahead and do a find, which is going to show us all of the values that have that in it. Okay. And of course, then the last piece that we need to add in, of course, is then we need to set that length so that we have it for the next iteration of that value. So we're just going to go ahead and add a set variable down here, which is our, and of course this is a global, so I got to make sure I put in the double $sign. Oops. I can type today. There we go. All right, so now we've got that in there. Now the last piece that we need is obviously if the value is empty, we definitely want to make sure that we reset that. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, come up here, paste it in, and then I'm just going to change that so that if the value does become empty, that we know we're definitely setting that global back to a value of 0. So let's save that. See how we did. Because I made some significant changes, I'm going to go ahead and turn script debugger back on. All right, so now we can go, okay. All right, so we got our script was triggered. Okay, we're not empty. All right, so now our value is going to be constrained. All right, so that looks good. Go ahead and do another value. Okay, so it looks like it's working, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that so I don't have to keep stepping through it. And now as we go here, all right, so this is the moment of truth. So we're down to 47 records, as we can see. But now if I back up, now all of a sudden it jumps out. And so now as I... All right, so it looks like we are well on our way. Okay, now, the last little piece that we want to go ahead and add is that, as we get in here, we quickly drill down to, the number that the customer service, representative needs to look at to be able to pass that information along as far as the warranty to the customer that's called in, is that, you really want to have to highlight and do all of that. So it would be nice if we added another button just to kind of clear that value out. So what's that going to look like? All right, well, let's go ahead again. We'll make a change to the layout. I'm just going to go ahead and drop a simple button. All right. Give it and we want to go ahead and, again, we're going to go ahead and do it as a script. So I'm going to go one that's already been created and named. Select that one there. So that all looks good there. And so now we just go ahead and do a little bit of okay, so there's our button. So we can go ahead and save that. Now we don't have to worry about a script trigger because the button itself is the trigger, which is very nice for us. Okay, and so here we go with our script. We get back to our script workspace. And so now we can see here that the first thing we want to do obviously is to go ahead and clear that filter text. Let's select that here. And just put in double quotes so that we clear that value out. And then, of course, then the other piece that we want to do is we want to make sure that that variable that we're using to track whether we need to do a find or constrain is there. And I'm going to cheat just real quick. Come over here, copy this step, come back over here and paste that in so we know that we have it. And I don't have the variable misspelled or anything like that. And then we're just going to go ahead and again put the exit script in there because it makes me feel better as I try to sleep at night. All right, so there is our script. The script is saved. Layout is saved. Go back into browse mode. And now when I click the button, oh, I missed a step. So it cleared the value, but it did not show all records because I forgot to add that in there. So let's go ahead and do that. And so now we're back to our original file set. So everything, it looks like it is working the way that we would expect it. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump back over here for a minute. And you can see obviously there's some additional things that you can do that I didn't spend time on as far as the formatting to make it look like the button is actually part of the field and the colors and all of those kinds of things match up. We have some placeholder text so that if the value is empty here, the person knows, okay, this is the value that you're expecting to see in there. Oops, okay, so nothing there. All right, and as we clear it out, we get back, and then there's that nice placeholder text, so we have an idea of what's going on. So that is the method that I've used on multiple occasions for adding this type of feature to a FileMaker solution. And again, what's nice about this obviously is that because it's part of the layout and not in the status toolbar, we can have it to where it works also on iPads or iPhones, things of that nature, so you don't have those kinds of constraints. And because it is in the script, it is very easy to go ahead and change it to make sure that it works and does exactly what you want it to do. In case something that some of the times those out of the box things, they're great, but they may not do exactly what you need in that particular instance. This gives you that flexibility. All right, so I think that's all we have for today. Let's go ahead and see if we have any questions from anyone. All right, so what are the benefits? Great question. I would say probably the main benefit is just what I was just talking about, in that you now have complete control. Because you can control what the triggering event is. You can also control what's happening here in the script between what happens when it clears out, as well as everything that happens as it filters down, and like what sort it's going to apply once it's applied, the constraint operation, things of that nature. All right, let's see, any others? What is the key for a successful implementation? Well, other than a working script and a proper layout, I mean, those kind of are obvious. I would say I would not tackle anything like this without using the script debugger, and then even sometimes the data viewer. They often go hand in hand when I'm working on something like this. If you have FileMaker Pro open and you don't have the tools menu, you actually do have the tools, it just needs to be enabled, and that's if you go under the preferences here for FileMaker, you can see that you have this option here to use the advanced tools. So you would want to turn that on. It will require you go ahead and close FileMaker and restart it. But that gives you that ability to step through things to make sure is everything working the way that I expected, but then gives you a way to get out of it in case you missed a step and need to go back in. Like I said, I missed a step there today, which was just show all records, which is not a big deal. But if you happen to miss an exit condition on a loop or something like that, then the machine just sits there and runs and runs and runs, and the only way out is to do a force quit. So that's where using that script debugger is nice, and also the data viewer, you can see what the value is as we type. In fact, let's take a quick look at that. You can see we have our search length is defined. Now as I come in here and start to work with it, Oops. Let's see. There we go. You can see it's incrementing the length, so I can see what is happening as the script is being triggered in the background. So data viewer and script debugger, don't leave home without them, is my advice there. Okay, so how do you include multiple fields in the search? That is a great question, and probably the primary way to do this, and I think we have just enough time that I can actually get in and we can take a look at this, is like obviously we're just searching on the serial number, but what we are able to do is we can search on multiple fields. And the easiest way that I found to do this is that, especially since FileMaker starts with search by default, is that if we come into our database and we're going to just go ahead and create a new calculation field that's just going to be filter text. Okay, we want to make that a calculation, and so now when we create it, you can either put them together as consecutive words. I'm a big fan of the list function just because of the readability of it. Is that if we go ahead and add, say like the item name and the model number and then our serial number, what that's going to do, change this over to text, is that's going to go ahead and convert or take those three fields, put them into a single field now. So we can click OK, and then what I'm going to do here, whoops, wrong shortcut key combination, when I get back to the script workspace, is instead of searching on the serial number field, I'm going to go ahead and search on that field that I just had created, which is our filter text. And I think that is, oops, I'm going to use that one, our calculated field, not the global field. That would not work very well. So we go ahead and save that. And so let's check and make sure. All right, so it looks like it's still working on the serial number, but now if I go in, nope. Uh-oh. Not working. Okay, well luckily I had actually anticipated this question. So let's go ahead and look at our script again, and I'm going to actually have created one that's a combination of the model and the serial number combo. So we'll save that change. Go back into browse mode. Go ahead and do our filter, make sure it's still working on there, so that looks good. This is not working as expected. I apologize for this, folks. When I was testing it, I swear it was working, but it seems to have stopped now. So let's go ahead and do this. Change our calculation to be a single string. And modify that again. let's turn script debugger on and see what it's trying to do. This is what happens. I was editing the wrong one, folks. Sorry about that. So if we switch over to here, so this is the, so now, all right, so now it is working because I was editing the wrong script, folks, so I apologize for that. So that's on me, but as you can see, it does work with the strings or in the list, either one. In fact, let's go ahead and just verify. I'm going to go back, change this one, which I know is based on the list. Clear that out. And let's see. All right, so it is working with the list. All right. Again, I apologize for that. Let's see. We have any more questions that have come in? Doesn't look like it. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about some upcoming events that we'd like to mention. The first is that FileMaker, which is the Pittsburgh FileMaker Developer Group, returns on Wednesday, August 3rd at 7 p.m. after taking our customary summer break. This is a hybrid meeting, which means you have the option to attend in person or join us remotely. For details and to RSVP, please visit www.crossit.com/fmberg, and then you'll find some information about the meeting and a way to RSVP. At noon on Wednesday, August 17th, we're going to serve our next Lunch and Learn. As we wrap up our summer schedule events, we're still in the planning stages, so please stay tuned and we'll announce our next topic here in a couple of weeks. Again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us today. If you like what you saw and heard, please click the thumbs up and share this video. If you haven't subscribed, we humbly ask that you do. You can also hit the bell to get notified when we go live with new content. Just like today's installment, some of the content presented as part of our Lunch and Learn sessions are the result of your questions. So if you have a suggestion for a future topic or if a specific FileMaker problem has you stumped, please submit those topics and questions by emailing us at nutshell@crossit.com. Your idea or question may be a featured topic of a future Lunch and Learn. From all of us at CrossIT, we are glad to have served you. Have a great day.